On the evening of October 7, 2015, young real estate agent Sasha Samsudan was enjoying a lively night out with some friends at a traditional American pub known for its unique style and charming wooden decor. The place was filled with sounds and laughter, while the dim lights created a warm and intimate atmosphere. Shortly after midnight, the 27-year-old excused herself from her friends, telling them she needed to head home. A few minutes later, her close friend Anthony Roper, who had been with her at the bar, tried to contact her to make sure she got home safely. He was worried because she had left alone and was a bit tipsy. Sasha didn't respond to Anthony's calls or the messages he sent through social media, and he began to feel anxious. Concerned, Anthony contacted the police and requested a welfare check at Sasha's apartment, located on the third floor of the Uptown Apartments building in Orlando, Florida. Police units rushed to the address. Upon arrival, they knocked on the door several times without getting a response. Eventually, they forced entry into the young woman's apartment and found Sasha's lifeless body lying on her bed, covered with multiple blankets. There were visible injuries to her neck, suggesting a criminal act. The police secured the scene and called in homicide detectives and forensic experts. What happened in the apartment of this young real estate agent? How did she end up dead on her bed? And would the police eventually be able to unravel the mystery of this complex crime? Stay with us to the end of this episode to find out. Police investigators began their work immediately, collecting evidence, lifting fingerprints, and gathering DNA samples from the scene. They noticed the toilet seat was up, and Sasha's keys and phone were missing, prompting them to search the bathroom carefully. They found unfamiliar fingerprints under the toilet lid and a partial shoe print. Investigators also noticed a strong smell of cleaning chemicals, indicating that the perpetrator had attempted to clean the scene and destroy evidence. Upon examining the body, it was clear Sasha had been sexually assaulted. When detectives removed the blankets, they found her shirt had been violently torn, and the lower part of her body was completely exposed. The forensic team initially concluded that she had been strangled, based on bruising around her neck, but the body was sent for further examination and autopsy. Investigators checked all entry points of the apartment and found no signs of forced entry, suggesting Sasha had known her killer and willingly let him in. They began questioning people close to her, including Anthony Roper. Anthony told detectives he had been with Sasha and others at Ethic Bar, and around 1:30 a.m. she decided to leave. He kept in touch via text to ensure she got home safely, but when she stopped replying and didn't answer his calls, he became worried and called the police. Anthony's story was corroborated by other friends and bar staff, leading investigators to remove him from their suspect list. Meanwhile, the forensic lab completed the autopsy and confirmed that Sasha had been severely beaten and strangled, and subjected to violent sexual assault. Most importantly, they found DNA evidence belonging to the perpetrator on her neck and chest. Investigators traced Sasha's steps from the bar to her apartment in the high-security Uptown complex, which had modern surveillance systems and digital keypads for access. They obtained a warrant to review surveillance footage and questioned Stephen Doxbury, the night shift security guard. Stephen said he saw Sasha enter the building with two other women. Sasha appeared drunk and didn't have her ID, keys, or access card. Recognizing her as a resident, he let her in after she followed another tenant. He said the other two women didn't live there, so he questioned them, then checked on Sasha, who was struggling to remember her apartment's access code. He left her at her door and walked away. This detail raised suspicions. Security guards were supposed to assist residents in such cases. Investigators asked to search Stephen's apartment, where they found a pair of shoes that resembled the partial print found at the crime scene. However, forensic tests showed the shoe didn't match. From surveillance footage, investigators identified the two women who had been with Sasha and brought them in for questioning. They said they had seen Sasha walking drunk on the street and asked their Uber driver to stop so they could help her. They gave her a ride to her apartment and asked the security guard to make sure she got in safely. Police also examined the digital access logs and identified the resident Sasha had followed into the building. He confirmed seeing her intoxicated but denied interacting with her. His DNA didn't match the sample found on the body. Every lead seemed to lead to a dead end, and frustration began to mount. But investigators pressed on and questioned more of Sasha's neighbors. One of them, Clayton Bezier, who lived upstairs, said he had been doing laundry when he saw Stephen Duxbury following Sasha in a suspicious manner. Although Stephen had been previously ruled out, this testimony put him back at the top of the suspect list. Investigators reviewed more footage and saw that Stephen had left the building at 6 a.m. carrying 2 trash bags, which he discarded in a nearby dumpster. This caught their attention because taking out trash wasn't part of his job. They zoomed in and saw that the white bags with red handles matched those in Sasha's apartment. Based on this, they brought Stephen in again and gave him a polygraph test. While his answers remained the same, the test showed he was lying about what happened with Sasha. Stephen allowed police to check his phone, but all data had been wiped using factory reset. This raised further suspicion, prompting police to get a warrant to examine his phone and home. On October 13, 2015, forensic analysts recovered deleted data showing that Stephen had searched online for ways to unlock digital door locks like the one on Sasha's apartment. Fingerprint comparisons showed that prints from Sasha's toilet matched Stephen's. His DNA also matched the sample found on Sasha's body. Authorities issued an arrest warrant, and Stephen was arrested on October 14. He was charged with first-degree murder, burglary, and sexual assault. Despite overwhelming evidence, Stephen maintained his innocence. The jury, however, was not convinced. Within a week of deliberations, they found him guilty on all counts. Stephen, the security guard entrusted with the safety of residents, was sentenced to life in prison for first-degree murder, and an additional 15 years for sexual assault and burglary. After the shoe was sent to the forensic lab, it was found that it did not match the shoe print discovered at the scene. Once surveillance camera records were made available, investigators were able to identify the 2 women who were with Sasha when she arrived at the building entrance. The women were summoned for questioning at the police station. The 2 girls told investigators that they were in an Uber when they saw Sasha walking down the street extremely intoxicated. They asked the driver to stop so they could help her. They picked Sasha up and took her in the car, dropping her off at the residential building where she lived. After she entered the building, she spoke with the building's security guard and asked him to ensure her safety and that she reached her apartment before they quietly left. Investigators also examined the digital records of the smart key system used at the entrance to the residential complex. Through those logs, they were able to identify the resident who Sasha followed in after she forgot her belongings. The resident spoke with investigators and told them that he noticed the victim was extremely drunk and could not clearly identify where she was going, but he did not interact with her. The man voluntarily agreed to provide a DNA sample, and after comparing it with the DNA sample found on the victim's body, it was confirmed that he was innocent. Musical note, musical note. Every time investigators tried to follow a lead, they hit a dead end, and despair over solving the crime began to creep in. Still, they continued the investigation, this time questioning several of Sasha's neighbors who lived in nearby apartments, hoping someone might have seen something noteworthy. One of the people who spoke with investigators was Clayton Bezier, Sasha's upstairs neighbor, who told them he was doing laundry when he saw Sasha in the hallway, being followed suspiciously by the building security guard, Stephen Duxbury. Although investigators had previously ruled Stephen out after testing his shoe, he quickly returned to the top of the suspect list based on Clayton's testimony. Investigators began reviewing his movements via the luxury apartment complex's surveillance footage. They noticed that Stephen left the building after his shift around 6 a.m., carrying 2 plastic garbage bags, which he disposed of in a nearby dumpster. This drew their attention since taking out the trash wasn't part of his job. Investigators zoomed in on the footage and soon realized that the white bags with red handles matched the same type of bags found in the victim's apartment. Musical note. In light of this development, the police re-interrogated Stephen, this time subjecting him to a lie detector test. His statements didn't change much from his previous account, but the machine indicated he was lying about what he claimed regarding Sasha. Stephen voluntarily allowed investigators to search his phone, but they didn't find any evidence, soon discovering that he had deleted all the data by performing a factory reset, effectively erasing the phone's memory. It was clear he was trying to hide something. Therefore, the police obtained a court order to search his home and phone. On October 3, 2015, investigators sent his phone to the forensic lab, where experts managed to recover the deleted files. They discovered that Stephen had been searching online for how to unlock the smart lock on the victim's apartment door. Using the fingerprints Stephen had provided when he got the security job, police found a match with prints discovered on the edge of Sasha's toilet, and his DNA also matched the sample found on the victim's body. As a result, authorities issued an arrest warrant for Stephen, and he was arrested in early October. He was charged with first-degree murder, sexual assault, and burglary. Despite all the evidence against him, Stephen continued to deny the charges. However, the jury did not believe his denials, and the evidence presented was enough to convince them of his guilt on all counts. Just 1 week after deliberations, the security guard, once entrusted with safety but who turned criminal, was sentenced to life in prison for first-degree murder, along with 15 years for the sexual assault and burglary charges.